Hello, I'm Henry Nutt, and if you've seen me on my YouTube channel here, thank you. I am the author of 7 Principles, Creating Your Success in the Construction Industry. See how thin this book is? It's like 86 pages. It's really written for construction workers. Working on the audiobook, I actually also have a Spanish version that was recently published as well. And so I'm very excited to talk to you today. I've been asked around by lots of people to really break down why this book is important, explain some of the intricacies of the book, why I wrote it, breaking down some of the chapters and what they mean, what they could possibly mean to you as a construction worker, construction professional in this industry. I don't prove to be a scientist when it comes to any of this stuff. I'm a sheet metal worker by trade. I've been in the trade for 36 years myself. Worked for Southland Industries for the last 17 years. And I'm in the role of a pre-construction executive. So I work in the pre-con/business development group now. And again, been here for 17 years and was a superintendent for 12 of those years here at Southland and spent most of my industry time in the field. So I'm the boots on the ground person. So everything that you're going to hear me talk about, or you choose to listen of what I'm talking about, is a guy that has been in the trade, working with the tools, going through my own struggles, hardships, successes, downfalls, you name it. All this stuff. There's no way I didn't experience it because I've been around so long. Not that I'm proud of that. Don't wear it like a badge of honor, but it's an experience that I have. It's my experience, and so it took some time to write this book. And even though it's only 86 pages, it took me about 10 years to write it, and primarily because I didn't think anybody would read it. And you know, it's easy to get doubt your own self, right? It's easy to kind of look at yourself and figure like, well, who am I? No one's going to read this. It's not really that important, and everybody knows this. And then I ran into a couple of people that shared with me 2 things that really helped me get motivated to start back to writing, because I had stuff archived and kind of like one day I'll get to it. Because writing the book is not easy. So those of you who do it, I tip my hat to you. I only wrote 86 pages, and it was a struggle. So, but those 2 people, one said, "I love music," and one person said, fine words or good words are like a good song, and the other one said, "It's like a fine wine. They never are outdated. They're timeless." And so I thought about that, and I thought about things that people have said to me that I repeat. And years ago, even sometimes as a kid, that still matters to me today. And so I'm honored to be a part of a group of folks that have put something memorialized in a book form that someone could read for years to come. And I hope it helps you. But I think it's important that I kind of share like part of my journey. You can read it in a book. And there's some obviously I'm going to leave out, so that hopefully you go get the book. You can go visit my website at Henry at hgn3partners.com. You can get the book there. Available anywhere where books are sold. So obviously Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. You can find the book there. But more importantly, it's not so much about going to buy my book. It's about the content that I believe that can help you. And so, one, because it helped me. And it continues to help me, and I practice these principles every day. I don't have them written on my wall or anything like that. It's just they're innate. They're part of my DNA. My parents gave me some skills. My mom and dad grew up with a home with a dad. In my home, so I was blessed. But my parents did get divorced when I was 14 years old. So when I was about the 7th grade, my dad didn't live with me anymore. But what he did do, and he didn't disappear, but one thing he did do while he was in the home with us is he showed me lots of things about how to work with my hands, doing chores around the house, changing brakes, watching him do that, giving your car a tune-up, changing your oil, all that stuff, and just knowing how to work with your hands and doing things. And I never knew how much I would appreciate that. And as I got older, it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot, helping me save money and not having to call mechanics and doing things like that as well. And I realized when I was like 20 something years old, when I was probably the only guy in my circle of friends that actually knew how to change spark plugs and, you know, give your car a tune-up and change the oil and do it where once it's done, your car still worked, you know? So I put this book together because I at some point, I think I realized I was taking for granted that everyone knows this stuff. That is basic information. It's common sense, but I also learned in that journey, that time, that common sense is definitely not common. Think about that. It's just not, right? And so I realized how important it was. So I got back on, you know, on the horse essentially and started writing again. And once I got committed back, you know, to writing, it really took me about 4 months. So I could have done this whole thing in less than a year if I was committed to it and really understood the purpose when I started doing it. And I don't think I really had the purpose. I wanted to put some words together, but my story changed so much as I was writing the book. I probably transitioned in roles twice while writing 86 pages. You know, I went from a transition out of the field and essentially as a general superintendent, and then became a pre-construction executive, you know, and so all that. So I was able to add that content in the book, but what I do know is that the journey continues. And so if there's more to write about later, I'll do a part 2 or something. But the key to that is really, you know, starting where you're at and knowing that what you have is worth somebody listening to. And I firmly believe that people who have something to say, document it, memorialize it, so others can learn from it. And that's really what this is about. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I've done. It's who I am, and being proud of that. But also knowing that it's not common, and so I want to share because we desperately need people in this industry, and we need to change the narrative of what it means to be a construction professional. And we'll talk about that a little bit. So that's why I wrote the book. I wanted to tell a story. There's points, you know, there's some data, but not much. There's really a story. And each chapter, some of them are super short. I'll admit that. Maybe one day I'll come back and tweak that and you know, lengthen the chapters a little bit with some more content. But for now, this is what I wrote. And it's really meant to be easy to read and identify very quickly. And so, hey, I'm just a guy, right? I'm 55 years old. I've been in the trade since 1987. I can't tell you how many years it took me to really find my way and be confident and know that my voice mattered and had something to offer, because I was I was not confident. I definitely was in the shadows of this industry, and till I figured it out. That was what I did, and it would have been my story if I didn't have some different awakenings that happened in my own life, which I believe could happen in each of our lives. I am special. I would say, I think you should know that you're special, but not in regards to like something unique had to happen to me that is only unique and specific to me. I believe this is for anyone and for everyone. And when I say that, I mean white people, all people of color, LGBTQ plus community, all religious backgrounds, all who choose to come to this industry should feel like they can choose and work in environments where they're accepted and where their opinions matter, where they don't feel ostracized, or they believe that people there see their value. And I know that's not truth in many places still, but I do know that there are many people right now around the country that I know personally that are doing what they can, and they're prominent leaders to change that narrative, to do something that really transcends what we've seen, to really permeate down to the worker, the everyday person that goes to work, the mom or the dad that's trying to figure it out, that decided that this is the career that I want to go to. I don't want to work in an office. I don't want to be behind in 4 doors or 4 walls my whole career in a conditioned space. I love being outdoors. I love working with my hands. I love challenges like that where there's something new to discover. You go to work every day in the same building while you're in that building constructing it, and it's something different. It's a new challenge every day. It's dynamic. It's amazing. And those who get it, they get it. Those who know that this is an amazing industry, and you build something that you can drive by for years to come and even show your kids things that you've done, it's a pride that goes with that. But sometimes behind that pride has been lots of pain and circumstances that are totally unavoidable, or I'll say totally avoidable, but they weren't back then. This is what you did. And for a long time, construction was about those folks who couldn't go to college or just doesn't fit for college. So you're the kid who was ushered down the path that, okay, you got to go work in the dirt because you're not too smart. And we accepted that kind of image that goes along with construction workers, and we perpetuated it in the field by how we conducted ourselves, how we treated women, how we treated other people. It was about yelling, screaming, who was the strongest, who was the person that had the most masculinity and testosterone. That was the guy that won the race, and unfortunately we're suffering because of that. We're suffering in ways where, we're suffering because we're the people who don't want to enter the industry because that's what they think the image is. And we're suffering because people who do hold that image find themselves not doing so well with their emotional health and their well-being. Before we even think that of as a term in this industry, we still have one of the highest suicide rates. And if you have been involved in this industry at all for the last couple of years, that's been a big topic of conversation, is the suicide rate. Is why do people come to work to die? What is that about? And why is this industry so prolific? Why is it that our numbers are outrating others, maybe second to minors? And so there's a problem. You hear the term the construction industry is broken. And in many ways it really is. But we're trying to fix that. And I'm a person of hope and believe that we can do some things to improve this industry. And so I look forward to talking to you here. I'm going to be on this for a while here, and I call this my wall. It's my brick wall. I don't know, the symbolism for me right now is just what resonates with me when I think about construction. Sometimes it feels like hitting a brick wall with things. But somebody had to construct that wall. So there you are, have construction tied to it as well. So again, my story, getting into the trades, I was probably, I was a 12th grader, and my dad was bugging me for years about getting into the industry. It felt like years, maybe it was only months. But because he was in the trade at that time, he kept saying, hey, you should do this. And I was thinking about, I'm going to school to be an engineer. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I thought engineering was going to be good. I was decent at mechanical drafting and things like that. And I felt like that'd be a good, pathway to go because I have to go to college. That's what you're supposed to do. Back then, my dad wasn't talking to me about the trades like it's an option. It wasn't like the conversation today. It's still, college was still like the thing. Like, that's what you do. That's just what you do. You graduate from high school and you go to college, or you do something else that nobody really cares about, and so there's that stigma that goes along with it, and you have to really be able to break out of that. But back then I didn't, so I went to college. I went to junior college, community college, for about a year and a half. Not listening to my dad. I said, I'm going to college. I'm going to be an engineer. That's what I thought I was going to do. And so he didn't give up though. He kept kind of getting in my ear. We didn't live together at that time. And so he would just say, hey, just take the test. If you don't pass, or if you don't want to do it, then just keep doing what you're doing. And I'll say one thing. So there's a principle there. It's not in my book necessarily, but listening to parents is not a bad thing. Do parents know everything? No, I'm a parent. When I was, obviously back then, it was just me. But I have 3 children, and I have to help them kind of navigate. And there's a way to do that without pushing them away. But I had to learn from my dad, like, this is like, that was just good sense. Okay, so you're going to tell me, take this test, and just, that's it. There's nothing else that goes along with it. Choose what you do afterwards. That's on you. So how do you push back on that? And I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Sometimes people say things to us that may, like, we may be in a disagreement with. We may not be aligned with our lives and our direction and what we think we're going to do. But when they coin it in a way that makes it like, what do I have to lose by trying this? Try it. Just see. And you can throw it in the trash. So if it is really that simple, pushing back with pride, just for the sake of pushing back, does not get you the prize. And so, long story short for me is obviously I took the test. I took the test, and about 2 to 3 weeks later, I got the notice, and it was the life decision time. Working at Macy's in the warehouse and going to school 3 to 4 days a week at least, 12, 16 units, and planning that whole life of going down that path. And I had to make a life decision. Class was starting. They had a job. What are you going to do? Pause. That's what I had to do. I had to think about it for a minute. And so I ended up obviously making a decision. I quit my job and I quit school, and I went to the trades. And I went into my pre-apprenticeship program, and I was there for like 2 weeks, and I got called in, and I went straight to work. And I worked for a company. I won't say any names because it was the worst. It was a terrible. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that. Oh my God, my first job, it was amazing. I so loved the construction industry. I wanted to be in it forever. No, I hated it. It was the worst. I worked with these old bigoted white dudes that didn't want me around. That it was freezing cold. I remember working at a prison in Santa Rita, and it was like 25 degrees in the morning out there. I used to commute. I lived in Vallejo, which is about, I think, 55, 60 miles away, one way. And this guy would get us on the truck, and we would bounce, driving 25 miles an hour on these potholes and to get to the job site. Just the worst. Cold, working in an environment where no one was showing me how to do what I was supposed to do. And then I wasn't successful in it, and so they wanted to let me go, but no one showed me even how to do it. And so it was just a lot of stuff, working at heights and different things. It was the worst. So I'm sorry to tell you that my first experience wasn't just wonderful, and that's why I wrote this book. No, it was hell, and I hated it, and I wanted to quit, and I wondered, what the hell was I thinking? Why did I do this? But I didn't give up. I kept going through it. I would have people, and it's so interesting. Sometimes when you think about accusations and about words that people use, and sometimes, a lot of times, people think, especially a person of color or a woman in industry, or someone again that identifies with a different sexual identity, that the stuff that they're facing is all in their head. Like, this is not real. This is not. They didn't say that to you. They didn't mean it that way, or whatever. I used to have people, really smart individuals in my industry, when I was a first-year apprentice, tell me how the industry was going to fold. That solar was going to take over it, that you might as well just walk out of it, because basically it was almost like planting seeds in my head that this industry is going to fall apart and it's not going to be around for the next 10 years. This is back in like 1987, and it was believable. I didn't know enough to not know if it was true or not, but these were nice guys, allegedly, finding ways to try to get me out. Not the harsh and you don't belong, but the nice words and seemingly intelligent conversations. Well, here we are in 2024. We're still building buildings. We still need air conditioning and HVAC systems to operate data centers, hospitals, high ed, homes, you name it, right? The industry is not going away. And this person was smart enough to know it wasn't, but he's also smart enough to try to discourage me. And it was pretty good at it. I was actually second guessing myself at that time because I didn't know enough about it to know if he was right or not. So anyway, worked in that company. It was not fun, and ultimately I transferred to another company, and so I went through my hoops, going through different companies as an apprentice, and that's what you did. You rotated up to your third year, and you worked 6 months for one company to get you exposure, which is a great thing. So I did that. That was part of my journey. And so ultimately I stopped and worked for this other company. I worked for this other company that had me, brought me up in a way that was really cool, where I actually worked more with my hands and had a little bit more knowledge in the third year, and people that knew me, and I liked them, they liked me. It was cool, so I learned a lot and was going down the path and being excited about it. Then I think if we fast forward to me, like kind of almost turning out as a journeyman, I work for this company still, and I remember, I think I worked maybe, I don't even know, for a month, and I got let go as a journeyman. And so then I find myself going through these waves constantly, like I'm working for 3 months, I'm working for 6 months, and being let go. And it was discouraging. And I want to quit again, and feeling like this is not what I signed up for. And I would go to work, get up in the morning, go to work to find work, and that was what I did. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't staying at home. I wasn't complaining. And I would go out there and I would look for work, and I had people like laughing at me while I'm walking on job sites looking for the hiring superintendent. And then I said, okay, forget it. I can't. So at that time I was married, and I was like, hey, I'm going to quit. I think we should do this and that. And I ended up leaving the trade. And I was going back to school again, this time to be a counselor. I thought I'm going to help people. I always wanted to help people. Imagine that. And so I went through that, and I ended up coming back. And here's the story. You can read this. I'm not going to give it in the detail about it on this page, but I'm going to tell you that I had like this supernatural experience, like a voice that told me, or asked me why I quit my trade. You can imagine, I went to school for 5 years and graduated and was actively working in the industry, and I quit. And the way it was put, where I was like, I didn't have a real good answer. I know it was like anger, and I know it was being afraid, and I know it was discouragement. Still not good enough reasons, right? But they were my reasons, and I owned that. So then I ended up going. I was going to school, and I was working at this school as well, and I was on the BART, and it was like a 45-minute ride on the BART, and that's when I kind of like got this epiphany, and I ended up making the decision to go back in, but I had to change me. And I think that's the difference with all of this, is that I had to change my own attitude, my outlook, and how I thought about myself in the industry. Because there may be a whole lot of people that may judge me by the color of my skin and how my hair looks or whatever. I look different than other people. But I don't have to buy into that. I don't have to own that myself. That's their opinion. That's their reality. It doesn't have to be mine. My reality can be, I belong. This is what I'm going to do. My mind is made up on why it's important to me. And so those are some of the things that had to happen to me. And the other thing, one of the most important things, was I had to change my own attitude. I had to come back as someone that was confident and knew my skill set, and then to not be discouraged by what people thought and said. Have a voice. And I did that. That is literally what changed my career, or changed my having a job to become a career, was me. Sure, I needed an opportunity still. I needed someone to believe in me and give me a chance. But the biggest thing that happened to me was I had to change me. And it wasn't about how I was going to change a bunch of other people to accept me. It was about, how do I come in here with a better and a different attitude, and one that is going to aspire to do something different, something better, something phenomenal. And that is what I did. Did it happen overnight? Absolutely not. But it did happen. And it took time, but it took me believing in myself like I never had before. And so you got to believe in yourself. You got to know you belong. You got to know that this is for me. And it kind of ties into some of the things I want to share. Thinking about, let me just go into some of the principles here that I think tie into what I'm saying right now. And I have my book. I'm going to open it because I think it's important to read like a part of what, this is my table of contents, even because it's different than what I have as a bookmarker. So one of the first chapter talks about small beginnings. Don't despise a day of small beginnings. That's actually a scripture out of the Bible. And it's really important that you, day one, coming into the trade, I speak to pre-apprentice or to the pre-apprenticeship program students all the time. And that's the one thing I have to tell them. You're not starting at the top. You're going to be the grunt worker. You're going to start at the beginning, suck it up and deal with it. A lot of times people came from other industries. They were like managers in other industries, right? The head of their department or something, but they realized that was a dead-end job. So they got in construction and they start where? At the bottom. That's what it is. You start at the bottom and you work your way up. So, but don't be discouraged by that. Put in your time, put in your work. You'll be elevated, you'll grow, you'll learn more, you'll get to know people. If you have the right attitude, people will discover you. But work hard and don't get discouraged by your beginning or trying to compare yourself to someone who's got it already. Because we all have a story. And mine was, 36 years ago roughly, where I was at that day one place and would have never saw myself where I'm at today. So that's important. The other principle number 2 is finding a mentor. And if you don't find anyone that you know, because maybe your circle of friends are not the folks you should be mentored by, and you got to be aware of that, right? So if you're always the smartest person in your circle, then maybe you should get some new friends, is my statement. And if you don't find those people in your circle, then go to the library and put it and go read a book. Most people who had something to say, put it in a book form. And there's like several books that I would recommend. I'm not going to go over that list right now, but there's a book I'll use at another video session. I'll add some books that I think are really important for mindset and for development and for leadership and for communication and for collaboration and ultimately for belief in you, and how you see yourself in the world. So do that. Stop being a victim. You can go to my YouTube page there. If you're here, you can go look at those chapters that break down those kind of 2-3 minute videos that talk about those things. So I'm not going to elaborate that, but we all have a story. We all have a reason to be a victim. Are you going to stay one is really the question. And that goes in every capacity of life. I've seen victims, and when I was a superintendent, I would have my guys on the job telling me, hey, we can't put this in because the framer didn't finish this, or the superintendent didn't give us information. So did anybody ask? Did anybody figure out why? And so it's like, hey guys, we can't be victims to everybody else's decision or indecision. And so let's be proactive. Let's get involved. Let's figure it out so that we can see the train coming before it runs us over. And so there's a point in time where we have to stop being that victim and really take on what we know is ours and how we decide to move forward. So next one, trying your best when I was working hard. There's nothing like just giving your best, right? We know what it looks like. You know what it looks like when you give it your best and when you choose to go half. We know what that is. But what's most important is that you know when you decide to give it your all, nothing can outpace the hardest working person in the room. You can be the smartest one, but if you can outwork somebody by just your commitment to the work, you're going to go far. People are going to recognize that. They're going to see you. They're going to figure out ways how to make life easier for you. They're going to figure out ways how to keep you around, because hard work is not very common. And those who choose to do it because they love the work, not about just getting paid. and living for the weekend. It's about knowing that, hey, I enjoy this work. This is important to me. Let's figure it out. Let's execute it in a flawless way. Let's find ways to make it better. Let's improve it all the time. That's the hard work mentality. And that's the person that is an asset and people will want to see you around. Number 6 is to love what you do. I said this so much that, I probably turned blue in the face here. How many people don't love their job or even like it? And think about what you're going to do. Maybe it's not the same for this generation now where I'm working in the industry for 30 years, right? Plus years. And lots of people don't work in industries that long anymore. There's not that loyalty or that decision to say, I want to be somewhere for that long. I get it. But either way, you're going to spend time doing it. And you're going to spend more time doing that than you do anything else in your life except sleeping. And you're commuting if you commute, even if you're working from home. You're doing that work every day for many hours a day, more time than what you spend with your family. And so your work family becomes your family. And so if you don't like the people or the industry that you work around, it's probably going to be a hard life. And it doesn't have to be that way. So I would say you want to pick something that you enjoy. So if you're looking in the trades, you can, as a good pre-apprenticeship programs are always kind of broadening the horizons, and they have partnerships with all these different specialty contractors, GCs. So there's welding, there's tile, there's carpentry, there's flooring, there's HVAC, plumbing, piping, sheet metal, masonry. There's so many aspects to this industry, and you just need to tap into one that you think you enjoy. Do your homework and do some research, and hopefully you can go to some real life job sites and kind of see what it is that people do, and operating engineers, and whether it's running the lift on the job site or operating big equipment that moves dirt, which is really cool stuff, and so it's important that you do some homework so that you can plant yourself somewhere where you can bloom, and not be moved around, every 6 or 8 months because you don't know what you want to do. And so, and not that you don't have the option, that, you might make a choice and you like something better, and that's fine. All work is honorable. Don't necessarily look for the path of least resistance. Some trades are easier to get in others, and some trades you use your body a lot, and some trades you use your mind a lot. And so figure out what you want to do, what works for you, and that's what's really important. The last one is becoming an asset versus a liability. And that is so important because when you're the asset, because you find a way, people find a way to keep you around. And if you're the first one to go all the time, it's time that you look in that mirror and recognize what it is I'm doing, possibly. You could be the nicest person in the world, but you're not necessarily that productive. And you can figure out how do I get better? One of the things I learned, my daughter graduated from college, and she was always talking to her professors about what she was learning, whether it was a calculus class or some biology, chemistry class. She didn't know. She spent a lot of time trying to figure it out. And that's what's important. Like, you got to dig in, you got to figure it out and know what you don't know. I don't love that term of saying you don't know what you don't know. I want to know what I don't know and be aware of what I don't know so I can figure out ways to bridge the gap to know, because it's really important. You don't want to stay ignorant and in the dark, because ignorant, as that saying, is not bliss. It doesn't bring good things along with it. You'll be held accountable for that. So those are the titles of the book, or the chapters of the book, and you can go in and again look at my other sessions there on the channel, and just kind of like the videos there that gives you some of the insight. So how can this book benefit you? I think about some things that I think are really cool about it. One, as I said in the beginning, it's 86 pages. It's super thin. Look at that. It's like really, really thin. It's got big letters, and here's one of my titles of the chapter there. I don't really have any pictures in it. Although I do have one picture in it that I'll share with you. It's more of a dedication to the person and what gave me the inspiration to even write this book, which is a really important person to me, and he ran this program in the very beginning. And he was a really good dude, and he always shared with us. Just when I walked in the classroom, he'd be talking about my 4 principles. He'd be talking about what we are going to talk about in the classrooms, and how we're going to really change this industry around. And he was committed with one person at a time, really looking forward to how are we going to do this together. And here, let me find it here because I keep skipping through this page and I don't see it. But anyway, this gentleman was like a mentor for many people, and I even had a chance to ask his family, can I dedicate the book to him? And he was very honored. They were very honored, and they allowed me to write. And his name was, they call him Rafa, and that was like his nickname. But we dedicated the book to him because he was the one that used to instruct all these students, and just always he was I believe a carpenter by trade, and then began working full time for City Build and trained all these students. And Rafa was a great dude that really helped a lot of people get into the industry and encouraged them. And again, he was the same kind of person that was the boots on the ground individual that helped a lot of people get in, stay in, figure it out, identify with their hardships, and help them discover what they didn't know about themselves. And so Rafa will go down in history as this really great dude that dedicated his life to the students who wanted to make construction a career, no matter what trades they were going to go into. But he believed in them, and he inspired me, and he was one of the reasons why I wrote this book. So I'd be remiss if I don't mention him in my conversations. But the book is simple. So 86 pages, easy to read. I'm going to work on putting an audio book, and I think I'll read it myself, so that those who don't like to read, and as you know, that I can say I identify with the journey that you're going to undergo. I relate to all the different obstacles and the issues, and experience racism, experience definitely being let go prematurely. The folks that stay were the buddies, not the smartest necessarily, or the ones who are doing the most work. And you go through all that stuff, and it's discouraging, and it feels like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? What's it? It's not worth it. But you can, and you need to stick it out, and that's what this book is for, to kind of give you that. It's like a guide. And you know, if you have a counselor, then you want to give them a call, and sometimes you have to remind yourself, well, why am I doing this? Does it really matter? It really does matter, because this is your life you're talking about, and your future, and the history that follows you, the people that you will impact. It really does matter. And so it's just again, it's my way of sharing what's important, and what's been important to me, and I hope that it helps you. So right now, as I mentioned, I talked about my journey. Now if I were to talk about my current state, and just the different pathways that I took while working as a general superintendent for Southland, and at some point I knew I wanted something different. I wanted to go into a different part of the business. The natural next step was to be a construction manager. And I didn't want that job necessarily, but I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what was available. And I think that was like a seed. And then maybe a few years passed by, and then one day we transitioned to a different division leader. And he was kind of slowly picking the people that I think he wanted around him for his teams. And he stopped me in the hallway one day in the office and said, "Hey, I want to have a talk with you." So I was like, well, I guess you're not going to fire me. I kind of, it's not like every day he was coming and saying, "I want to have a talk with you." So I knew something was up, and I didn't know what it was. And then we ended up having a conversation. He said, "Hey, we're talking about business development / pre-con, and your name keeps coming up." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I think part of that name coming up was a person that I respect highly. His name is Victor Sanvito, who's been like a mentor to me since I've been with Southland, and like, not just like, but he's been a mentor and seriously a sponsor. And there's a big difference, because he risked his own word and his himself to put me in a position where most people probably would have overlooked me, and probably had a good reason to, because I wasn't down that path. But there's something that he saw, and he went to bat for me, and this was a relationship that started like maybe almost 17 years prior. It was early in my career at Southland, and I was in a classroom with him, and we had an exchange, but we seemed to like connect at different times and gravitated to lots of things that he was doing, and he went to bat for me. And he's a white male that has worked at this company. He's a very smart man, but he's also someone that's very fair, and he was willing to sacrifice himself in many ways to help me, and really give me this kind of opportunity. Now, I had to have my skill sets, I had to have my things together, I had to have what I needed to be ready for that, and he had to trust that I was. But ultimately, when he did that, it was that opportunity. That opportunity would have not just come naturally on its own. And so there are lots of people that will go to bat for you. There are lots of people who go to bat for you when you put trust in you, because you've shown them that you have something worth investing in, and that is who you are as an individual, and what you bring to the table for the company that you're working for. So it's really important to note that, and I don't think I really shared that detail in my book, but I did mention Victor in my book, and I know that he was or still is someone that is around and providing lots of support and behind the scenes and sometimes in front of the scenes, with his voice and his stature that he has within the company. And so you don't know that's going to happen. You don't know that's not going to happen. You just have to know that there are people are watching you, and they'll see what you're doing, see what you're grinding, and see you doing the work, and realizing how important it is to you. You're passionate about it, and you want to go far in it, and you want to aspire to be something more than what you are today. And we get in leadership, we have a chance to identify those people and say, I want to try to help that person. And that's what I try to do now, whether it's within the company or when I go out to pre-apprenticeship programs and talk to students, and then out of that 40 I talk to, maybe there's like 3 or 4 that really connect with me, and we get to have a conversation, and we get to like kind of share some experiences and really help them navigate through their own journey, and where they're at in their walk. Because again, I was there. I know what it feels like. I remember being discouraged, being that seed in the dirt nobody sees until it starts sprouting up, and even then it's still very weak and insignificant, it seems. And so we all go through our cycles, but we will get a chance to go to the part where we're proving ourselves, and people will give us opportunities that we didn't think we'd ever have. And that's just the truth. So we talked about the principles. My current state, I'm helping right now with my colleague and our team of how we would work and build relationships with clients and owners, and sharing insights and trying to help people understand why we should do work for the company that I work for. And that's important, right? And then I get a chance to also go into different organizations and talk about mental health and promoting women in construction and people of color, and working with programs like Build California with AGC, and all these different ways to like improve the industry. I would have never in a million years thought that I would be doing something like that, where I actually get to do it as part of my job and help build the strong reputation of the company that I work for, as well as being influential as an individual. Would have never thought. It wasn't an aspiration. It wasn't my dream. It wasn't part of what I was looking to do in my career. But when you believe in something, and it's something that's important to you, you really begin to recognize that it just comes naturally for you, And so I get to get on stage and talk to thousands of people. I've been boards and chairs of boards, and been on boards currently right now, that has given me the opportunity to travel across the country and represent my company, as well as represent myself and showcase what this African American man can do in this industry. I was a nobody. I was an insignificant person. I was that person in chapter 1 with the small beginnings. No one knew my name. My last name is kind of, unique. It's Nutt, but no one knew my name. No one knew who I was. I was an intimidated young kid, essentially, that didn't know I could work with my hands, that I can get along with people. And I was willing to listen and to learn and grow. But it took me going through some obstacles, like I say, wanting to quit and then actually quitting, but coming back with an attitude that was relentless. Coming back with an attitude that knew I had something to offer in this industry, and I was going to do that. And I had some inspiration from some others that really helped, again, navigate through that. So as we kind of get to we got about, 15 minutes, those who are listening to this, I want to talk about where do you go from here? The end of the book, we talked about, so my conversation is about why I wrote the book, how it can benefit you, I believe, a little bit about my journey, and then it's where do you go from here? So after you read the book, after you kind of get in the industry and go through your classes, and now you're working somewhere, and maybe you're not being treated hey, Henry said, no, I didn't say. Everyone's different. Every company is different. Some are very progressive and understand the value of people as well as the job. And when they get both together, they create such an awesome place to work. And productivity is just a part of the DNA, because you have people who actually care and know that they're valued. But not every company is like that. And construction is not easy. It's very hard work. We got great technology, but it's still things that robots can't do in many cases, right? So it's just not repetitive, repeat stuff. It's unique challenges every day. We have to figure out new solutions. Building two buildings that are identical side by side will have different challenges, and so we have to be adaptable. We have to be dynamic. We have to be open-minded. We have to be collaborative. We have to be willing to negotiate with our colleagues, whether they work for us or those who are for the other trades, because we need them as much as we need the people that are on our teams. No more fighting. we need all the trades to align and figure out how we make this thing work. How do we build this building? How do we get there? Because if we fight, it just falls apart. And that's been the industry. It's been a terrible place to work. We didn't treat people fairly, and we were crowned with it. With that's our badge of honor of being in an industry that disrespected people and treated people poorly. And we'd say, well, it's construction. That's how it is, and that's not okay. And so that's another reason why I'm here. But where do you go from here? It's really up to you. And I'm not saying that just because you say you're going to do something, that means all the stars are going to align and it starts to work for you. Remember my story, and that you have to read more of it in the book. But when I put my mind to it, it didn't mean everything was going to start just falling into place. There's years of time that went by before I was able to really see the manifestations of what my prayers, my dreams and my hopes, and even what other people would say, hey, this is going to happen for you. It didn't just happen. And I remember being laid off and at home and unemployed, collecting unemployment, but I was raised to work, so that wasn't okay for me to be sitting at home. But I remember getting that call after lots of prayer and commitment and going out looking for work. I remember getting that call from my union rep and saying, hey, we have 3 options for you. 3. Which one do you think you want? All of them revolved around a commute, a long one. But it was worth it. And I picked one company, and I was off for work for about 1.5 years, and I was rusty. But I remembered what that voice of God told me to not be intimidated anymore. Know that you have some skills here, and use your voice. And I share my story in the book in regards to what I actually had to do. It was such a simple thing that I had to do. to like prove myself to one of my mentors, whose name is Michael Riley. He's a retired sheet metal worker that worked for a company called Therma, and he really helped me out. And he didn't know it, but I was just anybody. He didn't even know who I was. I just showed up on the scene one day, and while I'm on the scene, I realized what I needed to do. And I remember that voice told me what to do in regards to quit being that person that stands behind the scenes in the shadows, wait for the guy who has 10 more years of experience before you use your voice. There's a way to use your voice. You don't have to be the loudest to be heard, but you got to use your voice. And so you can be comfortable in your own skin and be you, but you can't be in the shadows. You got to come out. You got to be confident. You got to know that even if you're wrong, even if they don't use your idea, that it's still worth sharing it because it's perspective. And we all need to have different perspectives. We all need to have to listen to other perspectives and other options about how we get something done. And some of our best ideas have come from people who had never done it before. And sometimes those are the best ideas because they haven't done it before. So they're not going to think of it like somebody else does. They're going to challenge this scenario. They're going to challenge the way it's always been done. Be okay with that. Be okay with saying, why do we do that this way all the time? It's okay to ask that question. And maybe you don't feel that you have that where you're working. And I get that. You know, I understand that sometimes people just want you to shut up and do your job. And you do that till you have to, and then till you don't have to. Because if you're working with a place like that, then you probably won't shine very much. And they won't want to hear you, or they won't respect what you have to say. But when you get to the point where you can go to a place that it's going to respect your voice, see what you have, hear what you have to say, and then give you some tools to get there, and to implement those ideas, yeah, then you're on your way. But again, it takes time. But it is up to you. The obstacles are real, but guess what? So are you. The obstacles will not go away. They're going to be new ones that come around, but so are you. So what's important for you to do? Get a good night's sleep. Get a good night's sleep. Don't sleep on your sleep. Meaning, you got to know that sleeping is really important, and getting a good night's rest. We work too hard. We get up too early. We commute, and we're using our physical bodies a lot of times, or our mental capacities a lot of times, and so it requires us to have the proper nutrients and the proper rest so that we can be our best every day. It may seem like it's a given. Yeah, it is, but it's not every day for most people. You come to work tired, you're malnutrition, you had too much to drink the night before, and you're supposed to perform, and you put yourself and others in harm's way if you're not bringing all your faculties ready to fire at all cylinders at the same time. Simple thing, but not necessarily, again, a common thing. So we depend on people that they've got a good night rest. Been in situations where people have made some poor decisions and hit some wires and things like that and created sparks and could have electrocuted themselves and somebody else next to them. Why? Because they weren't thinking straight. They had something else going on, and so we gotta make sure you show up, and you show up. Talk about bringing your whole self. You don't want to have half yourself sleepy. We need you all here and ready to go to work every day. So their obstacles are real, but again, so are you. You can change your narrative. I'm not saying it just because I did it either, but I did, and I didn't think I could back then. But one step at a time, one day at a time, I did. I changed my narrative. I changed what was supposed to happen in my head, or what people thought wasn't supposed to happen, to changing my life and transforming others' lives, and continually doing that today. I don't think I'm super great or anything special in that sense. Not special enough where it can happen to somebody else, because yes, it happened with me, but the principles that I talked about are a big reason, and the commitment to not give in, and even quitting, as I said, even letting go and throwing in a towel, and then recognizing, no, you're not done yet, dude. You're coming back, and you're going to come back with a vengeance. You're going to come back with more wisdom. You're going to come back with understanding, and you're going to help people really get it. Like, I want you to get it. I want you, whatever it is you're doing. I got one of the guys that bought my book. He works now for Stanford, and he shared with me that he has folks that he hires read the copy of his book, and give them some things about the principles for them and how they would implement those in his job. And I was really honored for him to tell me that. So it's like you have no idea who you're going to impact and how you will impact them with how you show up every day. But you have to show up every day. And it's not easy. And it's a long journey. And it can be discouraging. You're going to have people there that don't want you there. Some do it in a way where it's slight behind the scenes, and some are in your face saying, we don't want you here. I remember probably about 3 years ago, I was at an event where Dr. Giovanna, that is this prolific person that does a lot of work in the diversity, equity, inclusion space. And I went to a event that she was speaking. She was a guest speaker, and I got a chance to speak. It was for women in construction, and I got a chance to speak to a couple of students and say, hey, tell me, how's it going? Like, give me some stories about, and I was just looking for this great stuff to come out of their mouths. And this one individual, she had been in the trade as a carpenter, not very long. And she said she was like very hungry and very eager to learn and grow. And she asked one of her field leaders, hey, tell me, like, this guy, what do I need to do to get better, sharpen my skills, and what can I do to grow? Sadly, he looks at her and he says, what you need to do is go home and bake some cookies. That's where you belong. And just broke her, right? It broke me listening to her say that. And thankfully, she actually had a woman that was the top person in the field, and she was able to go to her and have the same question, and then obviously deal with the gentleman with his response. And it was her, another woman in leadership in the field, that was able to identify with a young woman who was aspiring. Another reason why we need a diverse group of people in our industry that see each other and recognize why each other are important, and why we should bring value. And someone that looks like me, that has made it and is making it and creating a pathway for me, how important it is to have that. So you are somebody's next leader. And so she's able to share that story, and thankfully she had someone that could identify with her. She didn't have to stop there with him, because like her and like so many other people and other women in construction that don't have those allies, they walk away. Someone says, this is what you should be doing, and you're my boss, and you're the person that's going to instruct me every day and how my day goes. Why do I sign up for that for the next 3 months or 30 years? Why would I do that? I wouldn't do that. No one should advise you to do that, to go to work and be treated poorly every day. So having diversity of thought is also just as important in regards to how we approach our work, how we approach our problems, and how we deal with the issues that we face in this dynamic industry. And so I say again, the obstacles are real, and so are you. And I also say that you can change your narrative. And I would love to hear how she's doing today. But I also would love to hear how you're doing in ways I can help you by putting you on a podcast with me and asking and answering questions about your journey, and knowing that your journey is going to help someone else say, I used to be her, I used to be him. I was a gay dude in the industry and was afraid. And then you can hear 10 gay dudes or women talk about their experiences and how they overcame. And that's what it's about. I want to leave you with this, and that is becoming the first to create your success in this industry. That didn't want you there. You are that person. I hope you don't say that person. Because even though they may not want you there, they desperately need you there. Because we're still about 600,000+ people short. And we need people that want to make this a career. Not a part-time job, but a career. That want to invest their time, their lives, and realize that they can build something literally with their hands and their minds and with other people. And see it constructed and step back and say, I did that. That's pretty cool. That's what this industry is about. I'm going to have more to share and break down some other ideas and topics along the way here. But I'll say to you, please like my page. Please leave a comment or two. Please share with your friends. Even this step for me is stepping out. One, I did not sign up life to write a book. This happened later. I never thought I'd be sitting behind the camera and talking to people thinking like, who's going to listen to this, right? I never thought that. So I am now going down another pathway that's new and having to relive my own principles and know that they do matter, they still apply. And so I do hope that you can take this seriously. I hope that you can learn and extract what's good. You don't have to agree with me on everything and on this at all. But hopefully you can pull a nugget or two that will help you. And I, again, love to hear how it helped you. That encourages me. And also I can share with other people because we're all in this together. And we all need to link up and try to figure out as we transform what it means to be a construction professional. We do it with integrity, honesty, empathy, concern, love for all people, and lots of hard work, and then have a little fun doing it. So, thank you.